Welcome to Viva, and this is your recap for today. The Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, arrived in Malaysia yesterday for a two-day visit. According to Wisma Putra, both countries will discuss bilateral issues and exchange views on issues of common interest. Qatar's Al Jazeera says the country wants to strengthen relations with Malaysia in the fields of energy, the economy and investments. Malaysia, meanwhile, wants to be more involved in Qatar's World Cup construction boom. In preparing for World Cup 2022, Qatar is undertaking many construction projects, including a rail network, 8 stadiums and a new city. And Malaysia, who has 15 companies in related sectors in Qatar, wants in. Even DPM Zahid Hamidi, while visiting Qatar in February, has expressed hope that Malaysian companies can participate more actively in its World Cup projects. As for Qatar, the recent blockade of it by Saudi Arabia and co did affect its material supply for this construction boom, so it needs to look elsewhere. For example, since the Saudi blockade in June, Malaysia has replaced Saudi Arabia as a steel supplier to Qatar. So while it seems that the Saudi-Qatar conflict is sad and we do hope relations will normalize soon, economically it does present an advantage for countries like Malaysia to fill the vacuum. As such, let's hope that these bilateral visits will create more win-win economic cooperation for both countries. What are you going to be doing when you are 31? Probably not preparing to be the Prime Minister of a country. But that's exactly what Sebastian Kurz will be doing. He's slated to be Austria's youngest chancellor ever after his party is projected to win the country's election. Official results, though, will be announced at the end of this month. While it's inspiring to have another young, vibrant leader coming up in the world, like another Justin Trudeau or Emmanuel Macron, it's worthy to note that Kurz's party is far-right. What does this really mean? Well, far-right parties usually have very nationalistic ideologies and very low openness towards things like immigration. Kurz's campaign, for example, has called for a hardline stance on illegal immigration and limiting the number of refugees entering Austria. He's even proposed to seal off refugees' Mediterranean route to the country. And one of the themes of his campaign? Putting Austrians first. Sounds familiar? I understand that it is fair for every leader to promise that he'll put his people first. But maybe we've become a bit paranoid after seeing people like Donald Trump and his controversial policies. And Brexit, remember that? It's unclear whether Kurz would want to take Austria out of the EU as well. But in a Europe where more anti-EU leaders are popping up, it is a concern. Next, the death toll in the bombing in Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia, has reached at least 276 people, with more than 300 people injured so far. It was a truck packed with several hundred kilograms of military-grade as well as homemade explosives. The death toll is widely expected to increase. Rescue workers also say it would be difficult to confirm the death toll because the intense heat generated by the blast means the remains of many people will probably never be found. It's the latest in a city where this, unfortunately, is becoming more common. According to Long War Journal, at least 771 people have been killed or wounded in attacks in Mogadishu this year alone. These include bombings, suicide attacks and assassination attempts. The point being, we need to pay attention to the misfortune and instability at countries like Somalia more, because despite the many attacks in this part of the world do not tend to dominate headlines as much as, say, the Vegas shooting or the Manchester bombing. And finally, despite the intense rhetoric, the US and North Korea are not giving up on each other. US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said diplomacy with North Korea will continue right until the first bomb drops. As most of us may know, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un have been at each other for weeks now, with Trump calling Jong-un Little Rocket Man and threatening to annihilate North Korea, and Jong-un calling Trump mentally deranged, amongst many others. But Tillerson's claims actually contradict what his own president said. Trump has actually tweeted before that Tillerson would be wasting his time trying to have a dialogue with North Korea. To this extent, the US's stance on the North Korea situation is somewhat unclear, with America's highest leaders seemingly contradicting each other. Well, for us, it adds more uncertainty to the situation, and it does not help that the situation is one that could put the world in the brink of a thermonuclear war. You have been watching Viva. You are now up to speed.